So welcome everyone to our third I3 event of this semester. My name is Malika Samtani and I'm with the USC Career Center. I'm joined with my colleagues Lauren Opgenorth and Ryan Joshua, who are going to be answering any of your questions in the chat while we talk to our amazing panelists on the call. And we're going to also be having a networking portion where you're able to meet with all of our amazing employers from 11:15 to 1 o'clock p.m. today on a platform called Brazen. Ryan will be putting the link in the chat throughout the session for you all to access. Before we jump into our questions with our employers, all of our I3 events are sponsored by a student org. So we're super excited to have Annalise Montes with AMWA, who is going to talk a little bit about their org through the Keck School of Medicine. Annalise?
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for having me. Just a little bit about myself. I graduated last semester with a human biology major, and I'm a mom. So this is very exciting for me to be able to be part of organizations on campus and also tell you about our org. So USC AMWA is a chapter that aims to foster enriching involvement for the female pre-med students at USC. However, we are a safe space, very inclusive, and we are open to males and whoever wants to join, regardless of gender and diversity background. So our branch provides valuable opportunities and resources to educate and support members through their pre-health journeys, because it is quite a journey for us. And then we want to be able to create a support system here on campus. So we have a myriad of opportunities like mentorship. We have a mentorship program with the AMWA chapter of the USC Keck School of Medicine, in which our members are connected to medical school students. I personally had never spoken. I knew that I always wanted to be part. I wanted to become a doctor, but I had never spoken with a medical school student because due to my immigrant status, I was not really aware on how to do that. So that was really important for us to implement. And so we also have discussions about different topics and different pathways that you can take once in the medical field. So we have guest speakers, and then we that's how we connect with the health professionals. And we also have monthly community volunteering opportunities. So please join us if you're interested. I'm going to drop the email so that you can communicate with our members. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. And we'll just jump right into any questions. And Annalise, if you have any questions too, send them my way and we'll ask. So our first question we're going to ask all the panelists is to please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your organization. So I'll just go in orders of the squares on screen. So we'll start with Min.
Hi, my name is Min Haber, and I've been working at AMI USC for about 4 years. It's a very special institute located inside the campus, the main campus, where we're basically like an accelerator that bridges gap between biomedical innovation from USC and creation of the commercially successful medical products that improve and save lives. So we often have opportunities for students to join as an intern. Currently, we're only looking for 2 software developers, but I invite everyone to check out the AMI website and look at some really amazing projects we have going on. There will be opportunities that may open up in the future. So keep us in mind. Another note is that we have for the second year doing a summer internship program for high school and undergraduate students. Probably not appropriate for maybe students joining us, but it's something that you can spread the word about, because it's an amazing program where students can participate for 6 weeks in the summer and learn about biomedical development and research. So I hope a lot of people apply.
Thank you, Min. Yes, we'll definitely also share that with any students that are interested in that. We'll go to Yanwen.
Hi everyone, my name is Yang Wen, and I'm also working at AMI USC, same as Min, and I am a research programmer at AMI. My work at AMI mainly involves developing software for medical devices. And yes, we're looking for some software developers to join us and help us doing some development. And thank you.
Thank you for being here again. We'll go to Afra.
Hi, my name is Afra Yaroubian. I was a USC grad. I did my undergrad with biomedical engineering and mechanical emphasis, and did my master's with product development engineering. Now I'm working at Edwards Life Sciences as a clinical and regulatory development program associate, which is a rotational program. I work alongside with Sophia, and in my first rotation as a regulatory associate.
Thank you so much for being here. And last but not least, Sophia.
Hey guys, I want to apologize if there's any background noise at all. So hopefully everyone can hear me okay. Okay, good. Yeah, people are kind of walking in where I'm at the lab today. So, but good to see everyone. I'll keep my mask on, but try to show emotions through eyes. So, but yeah, I work at Edwards with Afra. I'm in the clinical and regulatory development program with her. I'm just a class above. So I'm close to rolling out, and I'm in my third rotation. And yeah, really happy to answer any questions about industry in general, or specifically clinical, regulatory, and medical affairs. I also have a background in biomedical engineering, not from USC, sadly, but I know there's a really strong program there, but come from UCI, so UC Irvine, and I graduated in 2019. So you know, fortunately, Afra and I are really like recent graduates, and if there's any questions about transition, I feel like we really welcome those, because I know it can be really difficult to transition from, you know, education to industry. So happy to answer any of that. And thank you guys for having us here today. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And it's actually a perfect segue to our next question, which is, can you share your career path to your current role? So why did you choose this industry? And I guess to Sophia's point too, can you also share what that transition was like from education to the workforce? Because I think our students would be really interested in that. Anyone can jump in or raise their hand if they want to answer first.
I can go first if that's okay. So yeah, I think choosing an industry and, you know, field is difficult out of college. I do feel like we don't really get to hear about the different roles too much in our, you know, courses, and so it is a lot of individual research. And I do think like a lot of the times it's like who you know, which is unfortunate, but that's why I think that these events are amazing. You know, kind of giving like the real. No one really like goes into it on purpose. Sometimes we stumble upon it. So that's kind of how I came about it. I interned at Edwards in clinical development, and I mostly saw the description, and it was engineering skills needed. So I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And, you know, it was kind of like any experience needed, or any experience I could have had, I would have taken it. And it was kind of just jumping at the opportunity in that sense. So, you know, really fortunate, and I really enjoyed my time. I think it was really nice to see us working on like clinical trials, really close to the patients, and then being able to apply my engineering skills to that. So I got lucky. I think kind of stumbled upon it, and then started doing research on my own, and we had this development program that I think like if I can recommend one thing, if you can go into a development program, I think those are also really great for the transition, because it eases you into an industry role, and you get to see kind of like where the different hats, what the different teams look like. So again, pretty fortunate, because my transition was, I mean, it's still tough. Like 9 to 5 is so unique and different from education. Like I can have hobbies now, which is nice, but because before it was like, you know, school is life, and work is still, you know, really big. But I think like making sure that you're you're happy and you're looking into other roles is really important. Yeah, I think what eased my transition is, just meeting with other people, talking with them about their experiences, what they kind of wish they had known early on. And I think Edwards has a good culture of like, if you schedule a one-on-one with someone, they'll be like, sure, I guess, and it's kind of like, you're new to the company, why not? So yeah, I felt really encouraged about like kind of just exploring and being open, but also really realizing that like this doesn't have to be my forever end job, like kind of just exploring at this point and stuff. So yeah, that's kind of my tidbit. So thank you.
Now, there is so much amazing information there, and I think it's a good reminder for students that there's also no linear career path to one goal, and that things can transfer, and just be curious about what's out there and see where it takes you. Anyone else would like to share?
Okay, I'll go next. So my educational background and my previous work experiences in all in astrophysics. I was in academia for a long time, mostly at Caltech, doing various mission space, what is it, related research, which was awesome. I got to do, a variety of, get to participate in a variety of missions. Um, and work in some amazing research. However, that part of my life sort of ended when funding, in academia is not most stable. And when it was time to look for a new opportunity, I think I was very lucky, but I didn't. I think the message is that I didn't limit myself to, it was sort of expected that I choose transition to like defense industry or other similar, aerospace and things. So I applied to this AMI job, and even though I didn't have any biomedical background, luckily my core skills, like image processing, data analysis, and I can also code. So I think that helped me to make this transition, which is really great because I get to learn new stuff every day and get to participate in amazing, medical innovation. So very lucky.
Thank you for sharing. Anyone else before we move?
I can go next. So my career path is also kind of nonlinear. So 3 years ago, I was also a USC student. I was doing my master's degree at the Viterbi School of Electrical Engineering. And then I saw the AMI was looking for a student worker. Yeah, and then I saw the position posting, and then I just apply and interview. I didn't expect that I would be working in the biomedical or healthcare industry, but after I joined AMI, I was doing some really interesting project like analyzing data, some biomedical data, and then develop some medical devices. And then I found it very interesting, and then also happy to make something that is helpful for the patients, which can make their life better. So I just keep on working in this industry. Thank you.
Thank you. Afra, did you want to answer, or we can move on to the next question?
My journey was pretty similar to Sophia. I love being in this industry because I love close contacts with patients and looking like being early in your career, you don't really know what you want to do. So a development program that has different rotations really gave me that opportunity to explore. So really trying to grasp as much as I can in my rotations, learn a lot about patient focus and about the industry in general. I had a previous internship in a different medical device company. It was still cardiovascular focused, but different cultures of companies makes you try to learn a lot of new stuff still. So I'm still learning a lot and looking forward to the next of my rotations.
No, thank you all for
Mhm.
sharing. It's so important to hear about each of your career journeys and sharing that with students as they're trying to figure out what their next move is. And right now, we know healthcare, the biomedical field, the sciences are really at the forefront as an industry, and students are really curious and exploring that. Can you share what are some of the challenges, but also the benefits to working in your specific industry?
In first again. Right now we're in the cardiovascular space, Afra and I, and specifically in the business unit that I've been rotating in, I think I'm gravitating towards more, is transcatheter mitral and tricuspid therapies. And so that group is pretty much dedicated to those two valves that I would say have a really it's an underserving population because not a lot of people are doing a lot of research in that field. So specifically challenges with that field are, again, not a lot of research to go off of. We're kind of, making strides. It has sort of the startup culture that I've always been really enticed by, but with an established company. So I kind of get, you have the funds of an established company, which is nice, and that security, but it does feel like a startup. Like, every other week it's new and something different is happening. And we're working on a trial now that has been, accelerated, and because it's doing so well. And again, this population doesn't have too many solutions out there. So it's pretty much like life or death for them. So it's been a challenging field because, it feels like a lot is at stake, but I think that's what motivates me. And I think that that's what intrigues me. And I think there's a lot to do in that area. So just learning about, a field where we don't have much data in is just, it's in itself a challenge, but hopefully it'll be, one day something that we all know a lot more about, and we can contribute to that. So yeah, I think the heart space is in general challenging because it definitely is the most complicated space, but again, a lot to do and so much to learn. So I think that's where Afra and I have probably just been, swamped with things in that sense. So it's been good.
Yeah, exactly. There is a lot that is changing, that is happening, and the change is challenging, but also it's necessary. And since so far I've only had my regulatory rotation, I can speak about that regulatory process, that every time there is a change, there is a lot of regulatory submissions, regulatory documentations that go to make sure that everything is safe and FDA is still aligned with us. So that is the challenging part, but also knowing that with every single change that we're doing, we are adding a value to the patient's life is really rewarding and valuable.
Thank you both for sharing. Min?
So not gonna talk about unique challenges. I mean, challenges unique to AMI or my experience, but I think that the one thing that surprised me moving from academia into sort of industry-facing, industry-centric institute was how we use the software. Before, I'm so used to being resourceful, find the cheapest, probably mostly free software to get your research done and job done. You come to industry and it's a completely different. Not only do you have to deal with all this regulatory compliances, but software have to be very, as a software developer in this area, you have to be very mindful of the IP protection and finding appropriate tools to build your software. So, with any other I guess field, you have to just be very adaptable and adjust to different challenges like that. But that was one of the glaring differences I had to quickly get used to in the beginning. But as for the benefits, for someone who, I mean, it's lovely just looking at beautiful stars and galaxies, yeah, but immediate impact in society, you cannot you cannot say more about biomedical field, because you can actually see how this is kind of things that you work on can immediately impact people's lives. So that's a great benefit.
I think one challenge in developing the medical device is that you got to work with people from many different backgrounds. Like you need to communicate with the doctors and some healthcare technicians, and also some people like me with some software or hardware background. And you got to learn many different things from these people and try to make your device that is easy to use for the doctors, also useful for the patients. And I think that's also kind of the benefit, because you can learn something new every day. Yeah.
No, thank you for sharing. And it brings up a really good point that, part of this field is interacting with individuals from different backgrounds and different cultures. And that's sometimes considered a soft skill that's not listed on the job requisition. So a lot of times it's the hard skills that the students see up front on a job posting. In your industry, can you share some of those soft skills or skills that maybe you learn on the job that students should be aware of and start developing now as a student?
I can go first. So for me, it's been a lot of writing. So writing skills have been coming very handy. In addition to writing skills, there's a lot of talking with people, networking that goes on in a company when you are starting your career. And being at USC, I think we are at a good spot for doing networking. USC provides a lot of opportunities for that. So really taking advantage of all those networking opportunities will add to your soft skills.
Thank you.
Yeah, to add on to that, technical writing has definitely come into play a lot. I think that, we worked on a lot of prototyping in BME courses, but I think the writing behind that was really important too, and I think it should be emphasized as well. So that has been helpful. Yeah, communication is huge, like Afra has mentioned, being able to collaborate with your teammates, and I think everyone has some good practice on that with like group projects and everything. But I think for me, in group projects, I tended to take that role of like, okay, I'm going to be the boss. Like, I'm going to tell you guys what to do. So try and, I know it's hard, but try and kind of figure out different roles in a group project that you can play and practice that, because you're not always going to be the leader. Like you have to take a back seat sometimes. So I think for me, it was like letting that go a little bit was hard. Not that I like acted out about it, but I'm just like, it was a weird role to be in, to be more of a support role. So I think trying to kind of like trust your teammates in that sense and make sure that you're collaborating effectively is important. And then just in general, yeah, networking is huge. And just like, I think with networking, my biggest note would be make sure that the relationships that you make are mutually beneficial. So like, don't reach out to someone because you need something always. Like, it should just be like, they reach out to you if they need something, you reach out too. But also like, you connect with them regularly and make sure that you recognize that they're a human being, that, they have things going on in their lives and everything. So that would be my biggest note about networking, because you can kind of tell if someone is genuine, and we always want to make those genuine relationships. So just one note there. But I feel like a lot of skills will be developed. I mean, not to say like on the roll, but a lot of skills will be developed while you're put in uncomfortable situations. So, if you're going for something that makes you uncomfortable, that's good, because it's growing skills that you aren't, quite developed yet. And I encourage that, definitely.
Thank you. Min or Yanwen?
I guess a couple of things that wasn't maybe mentioned is flexibility, adaptability, and problem solving skills, which is of course essential in any area. But yeah, especially in I think biomedical fields, flexibility is very important with changing, constantly changing um, environment. You have to not be, too tied to certain expectations, outcomes. It just leads to frustration. So.
Thank you, Min. We'll transition now to what students can do now to secure these positions and go search for different opportunities. So going back to networking, because we had already started that conversation, we know it's a huge part of the internship and also career search and trying to figure out what you want to do. Do you have any other tips or advice for students? I know it's being genuine and really thinking about what you can offer that individual or some of like the tips shared with us, but is there anything else that anyone would like to add?
I would like to add knowing the company that you're going for is really important. Researching the company, their culture, their products, maybe if you can set up some time with them, find people on LinkedIn, or if they come to USC for Trojan Talks or something, get connected with them. That is really important. It goes along with the networking, but also knowing the product, and as you're talking with them, emphasizing how much you know about the company is really important. And I would like to add, going to conferences is also a very good source for finding an internship. I found my second internship through a conference, and I wouldn't have got it. It was a really good internship. If hadn't I went to that conference, I wouldn't have got it. So start finding those internships. There are a lot of different societies at USC that even fund you for going to the conferences. So keep an eye for those too.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Just utilizing your resources and get events like this, and make sure that you stay for the networking session. I think that'll be a great way that we can all chat later. But I do want to make a note. Like, I know everything is virtual at the moment, and I know that might seem tough to reach out and connect with people, but I do feel like we have online platforms that work really well. I'm sure there's an alumni network that you can always reach out to. And I mean, that's my go-to, because I feel like, alumni want to help you out because they have been in the situation where they needed the help. So I think that should always be your first go-to. And then honestly, LinkedIn, like if you search a role that you're like, okay, this sounds really cool, but I have no idea what this is, let me message this person, ask for 20 minutes of their time. And I'm like, guarantee they will say yes, and it's just about, connecting with them and kind of reaching out. I know it's an uncomfortable position to be in. And I mean, sure, they might say no, or they might like kind of push it off, but someone out there will, with a role that you're interested in. So I just think that, utilizing your resources and reaching out to club alumni that you're in, or any groups or organizations is really helpful.
Thank you. Min or Yanwen?
I will just second what Afra said about, going to conferences. I think with the current situation, many conferences seem to be offering free registration because it's all in virtual mode. So I think students should definitely take advantage of that. They don't have to actively participate, but they can also, just listen and see what the general trends are, kind of thing. And I should also mention, my very first step, I didn't find out until many years later, but apparently the director of the institute I worked at saw me at the institute giving talk and he had a good impression. And so, you never know when you do your best in different, academic path, it could lead to great things in the future.
Thank you. And since you all touched on it so beautifully, that professional associations or conferences are so important to students, especially in this field, just to hear from experts, hear what the current research is. Are there any recommendations for conferences or associations that students should join or look out for?
I could go ahead and answer that since someone also asked me about this question. So if you're a part of any clubs, I know ASBM it's Associate Student of Biomedical Engineering at USC, and also GSBM, which is the graduate version of that. They fund for BMES conference every year. SUI, which is Society of Women Engineer at USC, also funds for the annual SUI conferences and sometimes the regional SUI conferences. If you're a part of any of the clubs at USC, there are high chances that they are affiliated with some bigger society and they fund for bigger conferences. So keep an eye on whatever your major is and your society, your club is. Keep asking about conferences, and they usually have applications. Sometimes if there is not a club at USC that funds that, there are still applications on the conference website itself. And if you need funding, just put in there. Students usually get funding very good. So keep an eye for that. Also, if you're a part of any labs at USC and you are having a publication, they will also send you to conferences. So get involved with labs too.
Thank you, Afra.
Sure.
And it helps just knowing, being a Trojan, that you are also part of all these orgs, and students can join these right now just by going on Engage SC. So thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, Afra answered that beautifully. I just also want to plug, Lauren put in the chat, the Trojan Network. Register now. Like, that is my first place I look, my own alumni network. I look at messages there. And I think that that's a great resource. And then all the clubs and organizations that Afra mentioned, I definitely encourage. And then just one small note, like, I think that we definitely do our engineering affiliated clubs, but there are always clubs that you'll make connections like in unlikely places. Like, I was a part of Engineers Without Borders, and I met some really great people that I still stay in touch with, and I'm intrigued by their industries as well. So it's not really like directly affiliated with mine, but I think it touches, we can all help each other, and we all know so many different people. So just, making sure that you stay connected. Thanks.
And and if I can add, you can also ask your professors that you admire, respect, or more importantly, I think you should definitely befriend your, department administrator. I mean, these people are the ones who know all about the, I think, conferences, because they arrange the travels and have all the information on those conferences. Great resource.
Thank you all for sharing. And I especially love that note that you're going to make connects and contacts in unexpected places. And students, just remember that everyone you meet knows something you don't. So if you remember that as you encounter different people and what they do, it's going to take you really far in your professional and personal endeavors. But because this is an event for students to figure out, internships, and they're really curious to know, what are the different projects you have interns work on if they were to pursue a role at your organization?
Great question. So I can speak to my own intern project. I think there'll be tons of different projects. I think you want to definitely find a company where, the way that they frame their intern projects are from, need, and it comes from a place of like, this will provide value to an organization, and it's not kind of like filler work. So the work that I did as an intern was I was trying to model a procedure that we have in our clinical trial. And in our benchtop model, there's in the heart, there's a structure called trabeculae, and it kind of looks like a spider web. So it was really difficult to like 3D model, but I think I learned a lot about, you know, how to actually do CAD in the real world, because it's definitely different from classes. And then I also learned how to utilize different softwares that we have. So we have this different software that actually like takes anatomical structures that you can model, because SolidWorks will like kind of bug out if you try to do something other than a square. So I got to like kind of learn different tools, and mostly I really think I spent a lot of my internship like, you know, networking too, and making sure that I utilized the time that I was there with my team. And then I kind of worked on some like screening call work, so taking notes on the screening patients that we were screening patients, and any of the calls that we were doing, and then making sure that we had a good streamlined process for that. So it was like definitely emphasized on process improvement. But I definitely have heard of a lot of different internships at our company that have segued into different roles that they're intrigued by. So we definitely take your interest in an application when you are applying to Edwards for an internship. So make sure to know, you know, a field that you are particularly interested in, or if you aren't, just, yeah, know that you're open. So, you know, I'm speaking to clinical and regulatory space, but we have different internships like, you know, manufacturing and in research and development. So there's a lot of different spaces that you can touch. So that's just one example. You'll hear a different example from everyone, I'm sure. So, yeah.
Thank you.
And I can talk about the project that we're looking for students in. So it's called Spec Project at AMI, and it's basically using the OCT, optical coherence tomography, to image the middle ear and possibly some inner ear to get more insight into, you know, the functioning of hearing and ear. If you ever been to ENT doctor, I guess enough times to know that we can't currently, I mean, doctors can, such ENT doctors can look in your ear, but they, you know, basically all they see is just tympanic membrane. They don't see the actual, it's hard, you know, it's not first time, it will be the first time to visualize the ear, inside the ear. So currently our project is one of the thing that we're involved in is creating a clinical setting software. I mean, software exists to run the system and stuff, but we need something that could be adapted to clinical setting where it's very much, yeah, it has a high usability scale and things. So we're looking for a couple of students, well, one for front end and one for back end, to kind of create the visualization tool in C# and WPF, which to be specifically Dev Express tool set probably not many have heard of. And then for backend, we're looking for someone very strong in C++. But just for as an example, I had other students in the past, and I want to highlight one where the student I worked with for a couple of years, and she and I developed an iPad application that basically analyzes and visualizes hyperspectral data. And this was very successful, and it was, you know, started and complete and packaged, that kind of thing. When she left, she was hired by Walmart Marts, and I just heard from her a couple of, a month ago. She's gotten hired by Google and moving to San Jose soon. So when I bring in a student, I try to sort of package the, I guess, project in a extent that they can hopefully finish it in their career, I mean, academic time frame at USC, but have enough freedom to, you know, put in their contribution. It's something that they can leave with very, you know, high pride and, yeah. It will be hopefully beneficial for both the student and the organization.
And besides the Spec project Min was talking about, we have also various projects going on at AMI. So if you join us, you can just see which project you are interested in, and you can definitely try working on many different projects, like some hyperspectral imaging projects. Yeah, this kind of thing.
That's an awesome place to be in, to kind of like have a selection and then get to narrow down. So I recommend that, definitely. That's great. And then I just wanted to make one note. I saw that we had a few questions in the Q&A about part-time and unpaid internships. I do want to just let everyone know that Edwards does not offer unpaid part-time internships, unfortunately. We do require that you are full-time and paid because it is a lot of work, and usually kind of like, in a 3-month span, you would be needing to like be dedicated fully to a project. So at the moment, we don't have any part-time internships, but we can definitely reach out to Lauren in this panel, like if that changes at all. But at this point, that's kind of where we are. And one last note is, if we're virtual, so we are monitoring the situation. I think for engineering internships, it is quite difficult to do remotely. And we last summer, just to give you guys full transparency, we did convert all of them to remote internships. But yeah, so we did fully remote last summer, but then this summer it might be different. We might do an integrated. Sorry guys, we might do an integrated process. So maybe you would come in like 2 days out of the week, but definitely whatever you guys are comfortable with. And I just wanted to note that like we aren't completely sure, but we are, considering the situation.
Thank you, Sophia. And just as a note, for these panels for I3, all the employers that are present are offering paid internships, but just keep in mind that even being involved in a student org and working on a project for them, working with your professor, or just any other of our unpaid internships you might find on Connect SC are great ways to gain experience without having to commit to a full-time internship. So there's a lot of different options out there, and we can talk more about that later. But for the last 15 minutes before we transition to the networking portion, students have to apply. So there's application materials needed. So can you share what somebody can do to stand out on their application to hopefully then go to the next round of their internship? So I see Min's hands up, so we'll go to Min first.
So, I mean, it may be obvious, but cover letter, resumes only go so far. You have to tailor your cover letter for individual employment and make sure that you emphasize how you qualify for the position and how you're a great match. I've told my husband about this event yesterday, and he also reminded me of another thing very important is when you go over that hurdle and get an interview, very important that you are able to talk about your projects that you list in resumes. If you go to interview and when asked, can you talk about this project in your resume, please do not say, oh, I did what I was told to do. That's really, really terrible. So you may not have been, leadership, you may not have played the leadership role in the project, but you should definitely be able to talk about the details of the project if you're going to put it on the resume.
Thank you, Min. Any other advice on the application materials? We love cover letters. It's always music to our ears as career advisors to hear that, because some students say, oh, I don't need it, but it can be a game changer when applying to positions. So any other advice is always appreciated to hear from the experts first.
Yeah, I think a cover letter is great, especially like, yeah, to help stand out. I mean, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but our last internship pool, I think we only got one cover letter. So that person like definitely stood out to us because there was one. So I mean, some years it's different. Some people put in different cover letters. I do think it's hard because I know cover letters need to try and be more geared towards like a company. So I know it might be hard to draft, but I do think it could be worth it, especially depending on the position. Like for our regulatory internships and positions, I definitely recommend a cover letter because that is a writing sample and that is already a good way of showing, you know, what you're capable of. And I'm sure that you can utilize career services at USC to get help on editing and, you know, reviewing. So I would definitely recommend that. I like lived at my career center my like last 2 years. So I definitely recommend that. I did actually ask a few of my professors to kind of review some of my applications as well. Depending on the relationship you have with them, I think that they have a lot more connections than we realize. So you know, talk with them, get advice, and yeah, hopefully that helps.
I another thing is resumes. I'm a little picky, but if you don't have anyone to ask to review your resume, go to Career Center or something. I mean, when it comes to students' resume, I try to overlook the, spelling mistakes and other things. But please, the formatting can always be, improved. And it's nothing more important than other, as many people looking at your resume and giving you feedback. You don't have to incorporate everything, but you should be aware of what your the people's on your.
Right. And yeah, and to Min's point, like that is the first look at, you know, a professional that they see of you. So, you know, definitely review, edit, make sure there are no spelling errors, talk about actionable items that you did in your experience. So yeah, resume is, I think the most important. And yeah, and try not to make them 2 pages. I know that is I know some people like to, because you guys have tons of experience, but I've had like lost the second page, you know, that means I don't get to see your skills at the end or something like that. So you know, the Career Center might give better advice, but I think we technically do like 1 pagers. So if you can fit it, of course.
I would like to one last thing to all that you guys said. That is persistence. If you like a company, just be persistent. I like Edwards from the first year I came to USC, kept going to all of their events at Career for Trojan Talks. Got rejected for internships twice, but then I landed my full-time role at Edwards. So they will remember your face, and even if they don't remember your face, you would learn a lot about the company at all of those opportunities. So take advantage of all of them.
Thank you all for sharing. It's exact advice we give. Min?
I just want to say last thing. There's always limited positions available, and so please do not take rejections personally. It just doesn't mean that you're not good enough. It's just that the position advertised is not the best match for you. You just have to go find something better and more wonderful for you. So don't take rejections personally. Period.
Thank you, Min. That is extremely important advice. I think, to all of your points, the persistence, the editing, and also just the ownership of the process is really going to help you as you are figuring out what to do with your career and where to apply to. So with our last few minutes, we're going to go ahead and just leave this as the last question, but what advice would you offer to students interested in this career specifically? Just in general, what's the one thing that I think all of them should walk away with today? And then we'll talk about transitioning over to Brazen. So
I'm thinking of like 20 things. Okay, let me try and concise them. Okay, well, I think this is just a note because I think like everyone is just working so hard, and especially in this new age of applying and virtual schoolwork. I do want to say like you guys are all doing great. Like kind of give yourself credit where it's due, because everyone is working so hard and your experiences are all unique, but you're definitely learning like great things and different things from each and every one of them. So just be proud of yourself for making it this far. Like I think that is something that you should know. And then I think the last thing is that I would say make sure that you're talking about all your different experiences, and I know that they might be very diverse. Like I was working at Jamba Juice for a few years, and I did include that with a career professionals that I was speaking with, because that's customer service and that's interaction with different employees, and so I think you guys can draw from all these different experiences that you have. So don't be shy to say I learned this from an extracurricular activity or a volunteer activity. It doesn't always need to be directly related to coursework or internships or experience. Like I know there was a lot of pressure to do that, but I just want you to know that we don't look down on experiences other than that. So make sure to, highlight everything about you because you're a well-rounded individual.
Thank you. And yes, we're very proud of our students, and definitely give yourself a pat on the back. It's been a tough year, and grace is due, and treat yourself this weekend whenever you can. You have to put yourself first in order to figure out what you want to do with your life and your career and schoolwork. So thank you for reminding our students of that.
Of course.
Min?
As I confessed, I'm a new person to biomedical this field. So as a new person, the thing that amazes me is how broad and wide the field is. So I think the advice would be just find what you're passionate about in this field. It's so vast. You can be concentrating on the like me software side of it. It's just the hardware side of it, or just even none of that. Just compliance, regulatory. Is another huge field. It seems to me. So I think the opportunities abound. You just need to find what makes you happy and investigate.
Thank you, Min. Afra Yanwen?
I just want to echo Min's point. Just find you're passionate and yeah, just be self-driven, willing to try different things. Yeah.
Yeah, I can only add that you're already passionate about being in healthcare, and that's why you're here. And make sure you show that to the representatives that you talk to. That is really important, especially in this industry, that you like helping patients and you want to help patients. That's not just like a job for you. So being passionate and like showing your passion is very, very important.
Min?
One thing to add is don't limit yourself. Just because you don't think it doesn't interest you in the glance, don't discard it, and then you just affirm your suspicion. For example, so when you choose your conferences, maybe you should just check out a bunch of them to see where you find something interesting. I had an opportunity to go to trauma. I guess trauma medical conference related to different project I was doing at AMI, and I learned that I am queasy at sight of blood and all the gore and stuff. So, I mean, it was very interesting, but you also find that that's not for you, so you move on. But I'm glad I did it, and I think you should be, adventurous.
Well, thank you all so much. We are perfect on time, and I cannot just tell you all enough. You've offered our students so much amazing advice. And I think if I could go back and go change careers, I definitely consider the medical and healthcare field. But just seeing how much you all care about other individuals, and that's at the core of your work, is so inspiring. And I know our students are so excited to meet with all of you. So for students, we're going to be having our networking portion from 11:15 to 1, where you get to meet with all of our reps one-on-one and talk to them about their positions and just, again, your passion about the healthcare industry. So again, thank you so much for your time. We are so appreciative, and fight on.